Hello and welcome to our program Where God Weeps, a program where we talk about the situation of the suffering and persecuted church around the world. When Iraq's new ambassador to the Holy See presented his credentials, Pope Benedict XVI stated unequivocally that this was a church struggling for her very survival. To tell us more about the story of Catholics in Iraq, it's my great privilege to welcome the Chaldean Archbishop of Erbil in northern Iraq, His Excellency Bashar Warda. Welcome, Your Excellency, and thank you for being here with us today in our program.
It's a pleasure to me.
Your Excellency, you entered the seminary at the tender age of 12. Did you always have a sense of your vocation to the priesthood?
At the age of 10, we moved to Al-Dora, closer to the seminary. So at that time, I used to go for the catechism, and I saw the students of the third and fourth year. I mean, they were very kind and always pleasant, and they put a lot of efforts in teaching us the principles of Christianity in a very difficult situation, because they had no classroom. We had no classrooms at that time because there was only the seminary and few houses. So they were very nice and gentle in a way of looking for that aspects of our life. So that was the first touch. I'd like to be like them and join them. And I spoke to one of them. And he said, well, you have to finish the 6th grade of primary school and then you are most welcome. And it started this way.
What would you say was your greatest obstacle to your priesthood?
Mostly thinking of my vocation, I would say in 1991 during the war, the Gulf War, damaging was everywhere. So we had together with around 40 young people from the area of Al-Dora, southern part of Baghdad, and it started. I started knowing the young people more and more, especially during the long nights of bombing. They've started to. I was in the first year of theology, and they had so many questions about Christianity, about faith, that these moments asked me to deepen my vocation more and more, to be ready for the mission, which is beyond just celebrating the sacraments. It's accompanying the people, especially accompanying the poorness that we have experienced during those years and those days, that our young people need more than just being a priest with them. They need a brother, they need a friend, they need someone who's what they would call Abuna in Arabic, our father in a sense. Because they had so many questions, and those young people helped me in a way to rediscover day after day what it needs to be a priest in the middle of changing time, and especially in the situation of Iraq and sanction, all of these years. They were there to help me and help them. So it's not, the obstacle is to be more attentive to them and more to listen more to the suffering of the people. It does not mean a body suffering. Sometimes it's a spiritual suffering and educational suffering. It varies. So those young people have opened a way for me to see what was for me something normal. And for them, they've said, no, there are hundreds of young people who need a closer relationship with the church, not just being there for the sacrament.
You were made at age 41. I think at the time you were one of the youngest bishops the Chaldean Archbishop of Erbil in northern Iraq. Was this a shock when you got the news? What was your reaction when you heard about your appointment?
A shock when it comes that you discover the big challenges that's facing the church, and diocese was without a bishop for 5 years, and those 5 years were very demanding one, because it experienced the immigration or the coming of over 5,000 Christian families who fled the violence in Baghdad and Mosul and Kirkuk and came to Erbil. And the church in the Middle East, and especially in Iraq, the church is for Christian families is everything. Whatever they need, they go to the church. If they need even a job in the governmental departments, usually they go to the church and ask if we can intervene or something. And it goes this way. Whatever they need, they go to the church. So during the 5 years, the church tried to present its pastoral activities merely as sacraments, but the diocese itself was not ready to welcome this massive immigration, and then it led the diocese in two parties. I mean, those who came and the original families. And now we have begun the process of reconciliation between these two groups, because there is a gap between them.
With all of these challenges, with you knew what you were going to step into, with the fact that, for example, the Chaldean Archbishop of Mosul had been killed 1 year before your ordination, and that priests, and particularly hierarchy, were confronting death threats, was this something that you said, I don't want to accept this responsibility, it's too much, or was it a natural step for you to take on this responsibility?
It's not a natural, but since the 1991, I've said, well, I'm ready. I'm ready wherever it may takes. So it's a sense of obedience, but I know that it would be demanding and challenging. And I've already went through several experiences in Baghdad during the war and after the war. Of course, if you ask me now to do the same thing that I've done in 2003, I will not do it. But at that time, I felt myself responsible for doing it, and that's it.
Are you afraid for your life? I come back to the question of the fact that the previous Chaldean Archbishop in Mosul was killed, and that Christians seem to be targeted. Are you afraid for your own safety, for your own security?
In Erbil now, it's safe province, so there's nothing to worry about. But it's a natural fear. So when we are there, yes, there is a sense of fear. Yes, this feeling is there. But once you are in the commitment,
you just go.
You just go. That's it.
You completed your studies in Leuven in Belgium, and you did your thesis on violence in Islam. Why did you choose this particular topic?
We experienced in 1993, 1994 that the previous regime have turned to Islam and Islamic movements, not because they believe in it, but using part of Islamic movements to try to establish themselves more and more, especially during the years of sanction. So we experienced the rising of violence inside Islam, Muslims communities, especially the Middle East. So I try to give just a few reflections on that issue, studying the roots of these movements, and we expected that more in the coming years, the Islamic, political Islam will rise more and more.
The
radicalism, and until we, in the starting of 2001 and 2003, it was quite obvious that we can see some kind of Islamic radicalism appearance on the streets of some provinces in Iraq, which was not normal. But I've realized that the whole Middle East is going to a time which is very delicate time and challenging concerning radicalism of Islam.
We have seen, of course, the increase in radicalism, in fundamentalism. But the question I have for you is, following your studies, is violence inherent within Islam, or is it something that is being manipulated for the radical or the fundamentalist end?
I would go for the second part of it. It's been manipulated and used by some of the radicals, because we have lived with Muslims, neighbors, for so many years, and we can give a testimony of life about living with Muslims in neighborhood, Sunni or Shia. So I would say, no, it's being used and manipulated more than it's inherited. Yes, there are some pages of the history of Islam which is so violent, and still, it's not so long that a bishop was killed. It's not long that so many families were forced to leave Mosul and Baghdad. And until now, there are some groups inside in the area nearby in Iraq, which they do believe that Islam is the best, and they do believe in using some of the violent means to force this idea.
What would be the intent of manipulating Islam? For what would be the purpose of, for example, the violence that is going on now?
Well, the purpose is to conquer the whole area, and they explain this as part of their belief. They've said it's a demand. It's part of jihad. We have to do this. It's not a choice for us. It's a way of life. So it's part of the whole. Some of the maybe politicians have used also these movements without believing in the idea, but it's a way of getting to the power. That's all.
Is there a dedicated or a particular campaign to force Christians to leave? To be honest,
the campaign of violence was all over the country. But when it comes to Christians, I would say it has a special phenomena, because Shia have also manipulated violence against Sunni, and they responded. The Sunni have responded to this violence with violence, while the Christians were the only community which receives violence without responding with violence. So it makes them special.
A soft target, if you will.
A soft target. So there are people who discriminate, yes, and attack Christians because they are Christians. There are another groups which attacks Christians because they made what we call the news on the media to show to the whole world that the whole political process in Iraq is failing. There are other groups who are attacking Christians for social interest. There are other people who are attacking Christians for economical interest. They threaten Christian families, and the next day the Christian families usually would leave their homes, and the property would be to the benefits of those people. So there are so many reasons to attack Christians, and at the end we have found that the Christians are the victims of the whole political process, and at the same time social and economical process. So until now. We cannot say it's safe 100%. It's not safe.
The American soldiers are withdrawing. Now 50,000 American soldiers still remain. What is your feeling for the future of the country? Will violence increase, and how do you see the development now?
I hope that we have learned that war is damaging, and it's brutal, and it's getting the lives of our beloved ones. I hope. And I hope that we have learned also that only dialogue between all Iraqi parties will benefit the country. But if it goes this way also, that all the communication is blocked suddenly between the politicians, yes, we might experience more violence and civil war. And as you have known, the minorities are the one who would suffer always from such situation, and of course Christians would be the target.
Do you think that civil war is on the horizon?
I hope not. I pray not, because we have seen the awfulness of this in Baghdad and Mosul.
I want to ask you a little bit now about the fact that we spoke earlier about refugees coming into, or better known as internally displaced persons, coming into, flooding from the south into the north, and what impact this has had on your diocese.
The experience of those people, poor people who are coming, have brought us also to the responsibility that we have to care for them pastorally. So it's a grace of God and a sign of hope at the same time that in the Diocese of Baghdad and Mosul, for example, they are forced to close churches. We at the diocese, we have to think of building new churches for those coming families, because we have over 4,000 Christian families new to the area. Those people definitely need place, and it's not a temporary. Many people, thank to God, are now thinking of buying a property in Erbil and in Ankawa. Buying a property, purchasing a property, it's a sign that they think of settlement.
Which is a good sign for the country.
Yes, it's a good sign for the country and for Christianity also, that at least we can balance between a suffering area and at least some. And this also would give hope for the other bishops who are also saying, and priests in Baghdad and Mosul, who at least will see, well, there is still a sign of hope. Because our sadness is when we see that the family are leaving the country. This is really a sad story for us, because we think that they will not come back again. While they are inside the country, there is a possibility to keep them. And for them also, they feel safer when they are still in the middle of people who would understand their language and their culture.
Who do you think of when you think of refugees? Is there one particular story that struck you personally?
A family which was asked to prepare her daughter to be married to Amir of what we call a head of a small radical group within 24 hours. So either to prepare her, to give her to marry him, or to convert to Islam, or to leave the house.
This was in Baghdad?
In Baghdad. So they left immediately Baghdad and ran away to the north.
There has been a proposal to develop an area in the Nineveh Plains, to develop a Christian community in the Nineveh Plains. Is that a good idea? Is it a wise decision? Is it a necessity? What do you think about this proposal?
From my talk and negotiation with the Christian politicians, none of them have thought of this idea at all. There is no one who believed that we should gather all Christians in one spot at all. None of them. And they've said, well, it was misunderstood from the beginning. Their demand, and I think it's right, that there are some historical villages and cities which has been known as Christians. So what we look for is, instead of changing the demography of these cities, which started, and I could give you an example of the area of Bartalla, for example. It's near Qaraqosh. A certain Islamic group started in buying the Christian properties via giving double the price of the value of the property, just to get the property and change the demographical status of the whole village. And until the people have realized there are some kind of
deeper motivation.
Yeah, deeper motivation behind this, and they have stopped. So those politicians, Christian politicians, have asked that it's better to have some constitutional rights for those historical cities and villages. But none of them have asked for what we call gathering all Christians in an area called, of course, Nineveh Plain is being known that it has several Chaldeans, Assyrian, Syrian Orthodox, Assyrian villages. I think there's no one would think of gathering all people in one spot.
In one particular area.
Because it would be, ridiculous. That means that we Christians also, we are calling for a radical state. to be a Christian.
To be a ghetto.
Yeah.
You mentioned earlier the growth of the faithful, of course, through immigration or internal movement within the country. But at the same time, there is a growth in vocations, and you're experiencing extraordinary numbers of faithful attending Mass. How do you explain, in this difficult time, a growth in vocations, for example?
Our land is the land of Abraham. He was called out of barrenness, and at that time, what we call difficult moments, God told him that, see the stars in the sky, and your descendants will be like this. So it's always this: God give us the sign of hope in the middle of suffering, so we can rely on and keep going and continuing. And it was always this, and this is the joyfulness that we always experience, and praise God for it, that in the middle of crisis, God would give us always the sign of hope and joy that He is with us, Emmanuel.
Do you see a continuation of this trend, that you will have more and more coming from the south, and perhaps even some Christians returning back from Syria, from Jordan, to make a home in northern Iraq?
It depends on the political stability. If things would work in Baghdad well, and the balance between the political parties, we might see that some people would go back also to Baghdad, because Baghdad has its own special memories, and over 24 churches there, and so many activities, and still around 16 churches still active inside Baghdad. So it depends on the political stability in Baghdad, and the process of forming a government. All these issues is part of the whole story.
What can we do to help the Christians in Iraq?
First of all, to pray for this church, because the root of the Christianity is in the Middle East, and especially when it comes to Iraq, you have so many important spiritual traditions, and as I said before, the tradition, the story of Abraham started there. Second, to raise awareness. Each Christian from his own part, just to know more about the suffering of the Christians in Iraq. This awareness will help people also to know more and more about the suffering of the minorities, because we are afraid that within the big political process we are lost, and nobody would hear our story. And the story of minorities always is more important than the majority when they tell, because the majority they have their own way of telling their stories. So raising awareness is very important. Each one of your listeners or viewers, when he would listen to this, maybe he would go further in finding more information about the church in Iraq, about the church in the Middle East, and this would help him also to spread the news about the community and the brothers and sisters that you have there in Iraq, and then to come and visit, come and see. At least you have 3 to 4 dioceses. You are able to come and see and be with them, and to share the sense of solidarity with the people. The church in Iraq is a suffering church, but this suffering, you give us the hope and encouragement that we should continue our mission, because we see that the Christianity there is very valuable for the community. We do believe that we have a mission to our country. We cannot say, well, they rejected us and we should leave. No, still we have so many people who would believe with us that we have a mission towards this community, especially during the days of violence, even if it started from Islam or Islamic movements or non-Islamic political parties. We see ourselves that we have our mission there. Hopefully we can play an important part of bringing reconciliation with these political parties. But with that, we need a lot of prayers from your part, and also, as I've said, awareness that there is a church which is still alive there.
Your Excellency, thank you for having been with us today in our program.
Thank you.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for having been with us today on Where God Weeps. And if you'd like to know more about the story of Catholics in Iraq, or perhaps how you might be able to help, I would encourage you to look at the contact information, and we look forward to seeing you next week. Take care.